Okay, and welcome back. We're at the start of World War One. This will be World War One, Part A. We're going to start with the intro, 1910 to 1918. You can read the trending news here for yourself, but the big one is nationalism. We will get into that later. Some imagery, World War One. This is trench warfare designed to protect soldiers in the field. As you can see, it's going to be a big thing in this war. Definitely know who Woodrow Wilson is. He's the president at the time. We'll get into the technology, but again, the important one, U-boats, submarines. We'll talk later. Okay. All right. We know about this already. You need to be aware a little bit of the different types of economic systems. The one in the U.S. that we use is called capitalism. Basically, it's associated with freedom, the ability to operate in a free market society with limited government interference. Whereas certain other economic systems, the government pretty much controls the economy, the flow of money, the flow of jobs. What job you get may be determined by your government in some cases. So again, in the U.S., we are strong supporters of capitalism and always have been historically. Some might not agree with that in modern times, but not my business. All right, so, and again, this is historically. Most Americans do not like socialism and communism because it involves this sense of control, this sense of the government is out to get you and keep you under their thumb, like a Boss Tweed cartoon or something. Okay, you need to know what a Kaiser is. It's a German king. This one, he is the one in charge of the German war effort. Okay, so you need to know what the first Red Scare is. Red represents communism. Countries that have switched to communism incorporate red in the flag. It's a symbolic piece of imagery that represents communism, color red, whatever. Okay, so there was a socialist party forming in Russia once upon a time before the war. They basically killed people, military leaders, politicians, and basically this socialist group, this backyard group that formed kind of in the shadow, they violently took over Russia and switched them to a communist nation. So right there, after this Bolshevik revolution happened, the U.S. is kind of like a little bit afraid of Russia, and we're afraid that the same thing could happen to us. If it could happen to Russia, surely it could happen to the U.S. That's why we call this the Red Scare. All right, it is a fear of communism, and as we well know, communism is represented by the color red. Here's our president at the time, number 28, Woodrow Wilson. Okay, you ever play a video game and you shoot a red barrel? What happens? What happens when you shoot a red barrel in a video game? Okay, it blows up. That's what we call a powder keg. Okay, an explosive barrel. If you disrupt the powder keg, boom, you get an explosion. So there was an area of Europe, this real tiny, cramped up area of all these little different countries stacked on top of one another. And pretty much none of them liked each other. And the area that I'm referring to is the Balkan Peninsula. And we'll talk more about nationalism in a minute. But this area, you basically represented where you were from, and so did other people, and it led to some tension. We'll say that, okay? And again, here's Europe, okay? Balkan Peninsula, all right? Let's move ahead with the main causes of World War I. And again, keep in mind that these causes, militarism, alliance system, imperialism, and nationalism, they spell out Main, M-A-I-N. All right, so let's get into each one of these, starting with militarism. If you are a person who believes your country should have the best military in the world, your country should stop at nothing to maintain this status, and that you want to be a world superpower through military achievement. You are what is called a militarist. Okay, so militarism is when you just support the military, support military growth, support military action by your country, be it good or bad on a moral scale. Who are we to judge? But hey, I don't make the rules. I just work here. Okay, the alliance system. It's just kind of like buddies helping each other in a street fight. Okay, a lot of countries were friends at the time. So if country A gets attacked, country B says, "Hey, that's my friend." He jumps in to help. Okay. So you've seen street fights, you get it. All right, next one is imperialism. Many world powers, including the U.S., wanted to expand their territory during this time. We should know what imperialism is by now, based on our knowledge of Hawaii and the Spanish-American War. But look, we weren't the only ones doing that. Imperialism was something that many countries, especially those in Europe, in the Balkan Peninsula perhaps, were after. And they all want the same thing: space, labor, and resources to make that money. Moving along to the last one, which is nationalism. And again, like I said, I want you to imagine these countries. They're stacked on top of each other. You live in this town. 20 miles away is another country. It's a border, and you don't like them and they don't like you. And when you get together for events, parades, perhaps a sporting event or something like that, there's trouble. Okay, I want you to think about NFL fans that get into fights in the crowd. They're always wearing different jerseys. It's always like, you were cheering against my team, so I'm about to whoop you, And then the fans get fired up and you get a brawl on either side. So think about football, wrestling, NBA fans. We've seen Sons and Four. All right, so what really set it off was the Austrian Archduke. Okay, I'll revisit this map of Europe. Okay, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. You can see it right here. This story will take place around this area, and it involves two countries, Austria and Serbia. Okay, so the leader of Austria was the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Ferdinand decided to go on a parade, like a goodwill thing, and he was going to go on this parade, wave at everybody, make his way down to the Serbian border, cross into Serbia, come up, and long story short, while he was visiting another country, the Austrian leader was assassinated. Some Serbian nationalists killed him. Again, if you're a nationalist, you are on Team USA. You're on Team Serbia in this case. These guys who killed him were a group of rowdy men, radicals. We're not going to call them terrorists, but they might. Radicals who supported their country by any means necessary. And they thought that a good way to declare their support and help their country get ahead in the times was to kill the Austrian leader. Okay, now keep in mind, the people who killed the man just happened to be Serbian. Okay, it's not like the Serbian government voted and said, yeah, let's kill the Austrian leader. No, it wasn't like that. It was just a group of some crazy radical guys from Serbia. Nobody knew what they were up to. But once it got out, the Archduke has been killed, Austria actually declared war on the whole country of Serbia. They basically said, look, we don't care if it was 9 guys. We don't care if it was 1 guy that did it. We don't care if it was 100 Serbians who were behind this. Because they were Serbian, that is an act of war, and we're declaring war on Serbia. Some illustrations here. That's the guy that killed him. I think it's pronounced Gavrilo Princip. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but look it up on Google. All right, so what we have now, and we're getting ready to close with this, is the sides of the war. All right, you're going to have an Austrian side, and you're going to have a Serbian side. Eventually, the U.S. will join the Serbian side, And I have these color coded in green. So in this lesson, if you see something in green, it is part of the Serbian side, also known as the Triple Entente, okay? Also known as the Allied Powers. If you see something in orange, it is part of the Austrian side of the war. That is called the Central Powers. So let's move along, okay? So who knows who on the green team, the Serbian team, the Allied Powers? You have Serbia, France, Great Britain, Russia, and we did join here at the bottom, but not until 1917. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Austrian side, the Central Powers. That would include Austria, Germany, the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, to name a few. And I will close with this, so feel free to pause on this screen, study those for a moment. But as of now, we are done with World War I, Part A. Thanks.